So today we will be discussing the criticism of Friedman's reformulation of quantity theory of money. I will advise you to first go to the article in which I have explained you this theory and now come to the criticism. The first point which I consider is very broad definition of money. See, as per Friedman, money includes not only the currency and demand deposits, but also the time deposits with the commercial banks. So what analysis of money has Friedman given? He says that it includes a currency. Currency is included in money. Okay. Demand deposits are also included in money. Very okay. And the commercial banks have time deposits with them, which people come and deposit with the commercial banks. That is also included. Now, this definition concludes that interest elasticity of demand for money is negligible. See, Friedman says we include currency, demand deposits, time deposits in the definition of money. And he also says that the interest elasticity of demand for money is negligible, means the rate of interest has almost no influence on the demand for money. See, further, if the rate of interest on time deposits increases, time deposits with a commercial bank, if commercial banks gives a higher rate of interest on those time deposits, what will obviously happen is that the demand for them will rise. This is very natural. But because the demand for time deposits have increased, automatically the demand for currency and demand deposits will fall because you are getting a higher rate of interest on the time deposits. So people will hold less of currency and less of demand deposit. Demand deposits means you will get almost negligible rate of interest on them. So this demand will fall when this demand will rise due to the rate of interest. So the overall effect of the rate of interest will be negligible on the money, demand for money, because some things are rising and some things are falling. So we conclude that the rate of interest has negligible effect on the demand for money. But Friedman analysis is weak that he does not make a choice between long-term and short-term interest rate. Here, here lies the criticism for Friedman's theory that there is no distinguish between long-term and short-term interest rate. What actually happens is if demand deposits are used, then short-term is preferred. And if time deposits are used, then long term is preferred. If you are going to deposit or invest your money in the time deposits, you will generally prefer long term investment. And if demand deposit mein karna hai, then you will definitely prefer short term. So hence interest rate is bound to influence the demand for money, which Friedman thinks that it is negligible influence, but interest rate definitely influences the demand for money. Further, second point is money is not a luxury good. See, Friedman regards money as luxury good because he includes time deposits in money. It's a luxury. What is money? Money is a luxury because we use money to use other consumer durables. He believes that there is a higher trend rate of money supply than income in the United States. What is United States doing is that people earn on the weekdays and they spend on the weekends. They really do hard work and they accumulate wealth, they accumulate money, but on weekends they just spend it. So he says that money is a luxury good, but there is no such luxury effect in money in case of England. Higher rate trend of money supply than income in US is there. In England, people don't do like this, that they spend it on weekends. It is not treated as a luxury. So luxury effect on USA is found a little, but there is no luxury effect in the UK. So in criticizing the Friedman's theory, we consider the point that money is not a luxury good. He regards it as a luxury good, but for criticizing it, it is actually not a luxury good because we find that there is no such luxury item considered in UK. Next point. More importance to wealth variables. See, Friedman theory में wealth variables are preferred to income. Wealth, if we studied that wealth variables wala point, you will be able to recall it. To income also we give more importance to the wealth variables. Secondly, operation of wealth and income variables simultaneously, it does not seem justified. So he considers that their operation of wealth is also happening, and at the same time income variables are also operating. So that gives out a non-justified statement. So he has been criticized by Johnson, who points out that income is a return on wealth. Wealth is the present value of income, because on this wealth only actually you are going to earn income. The presence of rate of interest and one of the variables in the demand for money function would appear to make the other superfluous. It seems superfluous, it seems unjustified. So we criticize Friedman's theory, saying that more importance he has allotted to the wealth variables. Fourth point, money supply is not exogenous. Exogenous means considering outside factors. Friedman takes the money supply unstable. The supply of money is varied by monetary authorities. This is the exogenous factor in Friedman's theory. Because it is not controlled by endogenous factors, this is what he claims it to be. That because money supply is controlled by monetary authorities, so he considered it to be exogenous factor. But in the United States, money supply consists of bank deposits created by changes in bank lending. So how money supply changes is, it depends upon the amount of bank deposits the bank is getting. As per the bank deposits, that will influence bank lending. So bank lending depends upon the bank reserves which are related to these deposits. Bank reserves expand and contract with what points? Like at times bank reserves may expand and at times they may contract. So what are the subpoints on which it depends? So it depends upon the deposits and withdrawals of currency by non-bank financial intermediaries. So one is the banking financial institution. There are other institutions which are not banking. So those intermediaries do deposit and withdraw currency. So the bank reserves will depend upon this deposit and withdrawal. It will also depend on the borrowings by the commercial banks. It will depend upon the borrowings by the commercial banks from Federal Reserve System, obviously the apex branch. How much is the borrowing done from commercial banks? It will depend. This will influence the bank reserves. Third point, inflow and outflow of money from abroad and to abroad, obviously. How much NRI deposits is happening and how much are they claiming it back? So this will also influence bank reserves. Fourth point, purchase and sale of securities by the Federal Reserve System. Now the apex bank, if it is purchasing securities or selling the securities, so this all will influence the bank deposits, bank reserves. Right now, the first three items are for sure endogenous elements to the money supply. See, these three are endogenous, andar ka. They are not exogenous as assumed by Friedman. So, money supply is mostly endogenous factor, but Friedman has considered it to be exogenous. So, this is the criticism, that money supply is mostly endogenous. Now, next point is ignores the effect of other variables on money supply. So if you recall, we said that Friedman's theory is not a theory of prices, not a theory of output, and not a theory of interest rate. So Friedman ignores the effect of prices, output, and interest rate on money supply. But the fact is that money supply can be expressed as a function of the above variables. We cannot ignore the effect of these three items on money supply, which stands as another point of the criticism for Friedman's theory. Sixth point comes out to be does not consider the time factor. Now Friedman does not tell us anything about the timing, about the speed of adjustment and the length of time to which this theory applies. Now how much time will it take for a person to generate income from that wealth? How much time? Or if he has invested somewhere, one investment he has done and he is getting the income but he is not satisfied with that income. So he will switch, right? How much time will he take to switch? How much time will the new venture start giving him money? So all these things are totally ignored. The timing, the speed of adjustment, and the length of time, how much time will the income take to generate wealth? So this is not given there, right? Next, Next point is no positive correlation between money supply and money GNP, gross national product. As per Friedman, money supply and money GNP have been positively correlated. So Friedman believes that these two items, they are positive correlation between money supply and money GNP. But another economist, as per Caldos in Britain, he claims that the best correlation is found between not these two items. The best correlation is found between the quarterly variations in the amount of cash held in the form of notes and coins by the public. So which two items has he considered? The first is the quarterly variations in the amount of cash. Public may be holding money in the form of notes and coins, and it may vary. In the first quarter, it may be a different amount, and in the next quarter, it may be a different amount. So the A point is this variations in the amount of cash held by the public, and the second point is corresponding variation in the personal consumption at market prices. So how much are the people consuming? It depends upon the amount they are holding and their personal consumption at the market prices. So according to Mr. Caldos, there is no such correlation between the two items which Friedman considers. The correlation exists in the amount of money held by the public, which varies on a quarter basis, and obviously the personal consumption which they do in the market at the market prices. This also varies. So there is a correlation between these two items, but Friedman considers it between money supply and money GNP, which has been totally rejected by Caldos. So we come to the conclusion that in spite of the criticisms which we just discussed, Friedman's theory is the most important developmental theory. Its theoretical significance lies in the conceptual integration of wealth and income as influences on behavior. So the main importance lies here of the integration of wealth and income which he has accumulated together. So here we come to the end of the article. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Stay safe, stay best. Thanks for watching.